Hey guys, it's Avenger, welcome back to the channel, and today we're doing a re-review of the Pilot's Maule M7, because it's had a pretty major update, and from what I've been told, they've fixed a lot of the issues I had with the aircraft in my initial review. So, what have we got as a change? Well, the changes have been validated by a real Maule pilot instructor, which is a good start. The flap performance has been changed. I've flown this once since the update, and I can tell that that's true. Exterior design has been modified, including the engine cowling, which was inaccurate. There's a float version aileron. It's added more kind of tabs to that. Updated the textures for the float version. Tailwheel logic has been updated and the turn coefficient has been changed. The door mechanism, including lock, now works differently, more accurately. Real door sounds from a Maule. Realistic wind force and constraint on doors, so they will open but not well in flight. Thermometer, horometer have been added. Custom fuel design has been changed entirely. Updated fuel flow to custom. Added aux tanks. Selectable realistic engine conditions features. Spark plug logic. We have station loading have been updated. Update to the clipboard to an EFB. Added loads, weight variables. Fuel load from EFB. Anchor from EFB. Paddle movement from EFB, so you can actually paddle that one. We'll take a look at that as well. And updated the user manual. There were previous updates, including updates to the PMS50 to the WTT one, some decal updates, and clipboard designs of various other features. So, let's take a look, shall we? Now, first off, where is our tablet? There it is. So, we have ground equipment options here, so wheel chocks are checked. It's kind of simple. Equipment, so we have the Asobo ones here, we've got TDS. That's installed there. We can go back to stock. And PMS as well. I didn't need to reinstall mine. Realistic engine simulation can be turned on and off. And if we go to fuel and payload, we have the various other options here. So there's our fuel tanks, there's our aux tanks. We're not going to touch that right now. So there we go. That is a very simple but somewhat useful EFB. Put that away. Let's get started. Let's take her for a short flight. We're just going to mess around along the coast here and play with it to see what she's like. And then we'll take the floater out and see how she behaves. Here's the door, by the way. There we go. A little more complicated. Still a shame you can't open the windows, but I don't think this version has the opening windows. But you notice here, it's open, it's closed. And if we go that way, it locks the door. So, up. And open. Close. And lock. Simple. Turn our systems on here. Make sure everything is selected as it should be. There we go. Let's get this off here. Boost pumps on. Dual feed from both tanks. Parking brake is on. These are starting up, so I'll just leave those a second. I wanted to see how she really behaves with this. Biggest issue I had that really put me off the aircraft was the handling. That was a huge thing. It was incredibly pitch sensitive and really temperamental in that regard. And it got weird when it got slow. So we'll have to see how she does now. They're starting up, so that's fine. Clear prop. Engine's good. Alright, knock that off there. Right, so we're going to just mess around. We're just in Alaska right now, so it's going to be a little simple run here, but actually change my weather a little bit. We'll go to scattered clouds. It's a little prettier, looks a little bit nicer. I'm not really playing with the weather too hard today, so that's not going to be a major problem. Where did it hide those? Looking for scattered clouds. That is... Oh dear God. Why did that get so weird? Why is it so dark? Oh, it could be the time. It's most likely the time. Yep, there we go. 9 o'clock. Cool. Okay. Set parking brake off. And we're going to taxi out here. We're pretty close to the end of the runway, so we should be good. There we are. Make sure my head tracking is turned on, which usually means I need to start it, which I haven't. Wait for open track to start up. Which it should do just in a second. Could tell I'm prepared. I'm always prepared. Okay, we'll go for 1-notch flaps. We'll go very fast there while I was paying attention to other things, so we're on the grass a little bit, but this is fine. Get out here on the runway. Okay, looking good. So now I've got 2 powerful engines, so we can go straight to full power. Tails up, a little bit of a swing, we'll correct it that way. Oh, overcorrect it with the paddle. And she lifts away, nice and easy. Now the first thing I'm noticing here is that pitch is still much stiffer. Wow, okay. That is much stiffer on the pitch. Pull the flaps up there. Roll is a lot slower too. Of course, it's got a fairly chunky wing here. I definitely find it a lot slower in the roll. That's my first big observation here. Now when we look at the outside, engine cowling has changed slightly. It's that chunkier, squarer tip to the nose. Looks more accurate to the Maule. But yeah, roll rate is definitely a little slower. Much, much slower, in fact. Pull the power back here a little bit. Notch that down to 22.5. Pull the RPM back. We'll head over to Nanwalek, which is just round the corner to the left, for a quick stop in before we head off someplace else. See how she behaves. Now, as far as texturing and other, physical elements of the aircraft, they haven't really changed at all. So there is that. But it does seem a lot more stable. That was my biggest gripe. I really hated that about it. It was so twitchy. Whereas now, I really have to kind of force it to do that. Now let's just try one thing here. Let's go to get nice and slow. We'll let ourselves slow down here and we'll get some flaps out. We're at relatively low here, under 1,000 feet, but we'll be fine, right? Probably. Full flaps here, those big barn doors. Nose drops. Hold the speed here. And it's dropping its nose down. It's not doing that almost pitch over backwards routine it used to do. There we go. And she's recovering nicely. No major problems there. It becomes incredibly stiff in the roll when the flaps are out. You have way less authority. Which is, obviously a factor. But the aircraft generally feels a lot more stable, predictable, realistic, I think is the word I'm going to look for here. I have no experience in them all, but I do know from what I've been told, they're pretty stable aircraft. So that super duper pitch sensitivity was quite weird. It still feels a little sensitive, but nowhere near as bad. That could also be a flight control issue. I don't think it is, but it could be. Now, roll around the headland here, and we should be at Nanwalek. There's the rocks. So we are. That's really stormy up there. Let's try the standard weather thing. Yeah, we're on scattered clouds for some reason. You didn't want to change that. There we go. That's much brighter, isn't it? Few clouds. We wanted few, not scattered. Much prettier. Easier to see things for a video. Which is why you don't see me flying at night. You'd basically see nothing. You record a video, then render a video, and it gets darker. In all cases, nearly. So you have to start with an overly bright video in most cases. And then once you upload it to YouTube, it gets darker still. So a dark night video becomes incredibly dark. Okay, we're still in flap speed range here, so that's our runway. This is the world's worst circuit. But we'll make it work. It's going to be a very tight turn, but it should give us a good example. Okay, 1 notch of flaps in. And it's going to become quite obtuse on the roll. But very, very stable all of a sudden. Bring the nose round here. Okay. We'll give it full flaps when we come around the corner. We don't want to get too stiff straight away. Ha! That's what she said. Okay, this is going to be really close. I should have come in at a much longer base. But we can make this work. Those are trees. Power, 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 power. You know what? I'm not going to put 2 stories of flaps in. I don't think I need it. Tighten it around here. That's much nicer. Everything feels 10 times more predictable now. She'll still nose over if you're a bit too jabby on the brakes. So be gentle. But she could really manoeuvre now, and you've got a lot more comfortable, predictive behaviour behind how the aircraft flies, which is really nice. It feels a lot more stiff and predictable. We'll just take off from here to show you a quick take-off run. Whoa, Nelly. Just get around here. Okay. In fact, you know what? We'll go for a short takeoff. Let's get the power brakes on there. Stop and full power. Whoa. And pop the flaps. Then we'll just go off the edge of the runway because reasons. And away she flies. Yep. Maule moment. I'm light, I've got no weight on board, and we did a flat pop from a wheel stand, which made it a little bit quicker to actually get up in the air. Ground effect helped, and then we just about had enough speed to keep it there. So, let's go try the float version, because apparently we can paddle, and that has me excited. So here we are in the float plane version of the Maule, and exterior-wise, you'll note there have been some rear changes in terms of the lower fin there. And I believe there's been some changes to the elevation deflection we get. That wasn't specific. And of course the cowling has changed as well. Very little else has. In fact, we're busy floating into a dock, so let's correct that, shall we? If we go to ground equipment, wheel chocks are irrelevant right now because guess what? Oh, bloody hell. Hi. Parking brake was doing something, it seems. Let's paddle. There we go. So how this works is literally, it's kind of got no stop to it, which means the water's kind of very fluid, I suppose. How do you stop it? Well, I guess you could always just throw the anchor out, which doesn't seem to stop you immediately, or stop turning. Interesting. Are we still moving away? No, we're basically stationary. Okay. But we can still turn with the anchor on. We can't move, though. We can't stop the turning, which is an odd one because that's kind of annoying. Now, I wonder if I could drop the water rudders. Will that have any impact? Right rudder. No. A little bit, but not much. So we can basically paddle forwards. This is not... Okay, so when I'm paddling forwards, the water rudders will have an effect. So it's very much like the Gottfried system in the Wilga. However, it's not an actual paddle, and you aren't using your flight controls to do it, unfortunately. Which would have been nice. But that Gottfried system is very much like the system in the A2A Cub, which I'd say is the peak of kind of float handling on the water. We can go wee forwards, and the anchor just stops us dead. Which is useful to at least be able to anchor the aircraft. That's quite nice. So, we've also got our checklists there, which are really hard to read being plain white on a bright screen. But hey, whatever. It's a checklist. It's useful to have. We'll put that away. We'll get this thing started. Which needs to have everything set up properly because I haven't done that. Because I was too busy talking to you guys. And we'll just taxi out here into the channel. It doesn't take a lot of power for it to move on the water. My throttle's idle right now. I'm still moving quite easily. So the anchor's going to be useful. And I've still got it set to start. Let's get rid of that. Now, I will say, let's show you the door logic. We'll get onto the step taxi here. And you'll notice it closed by itself as we pick up speed. And slow down. It will start to open again as the wind affects the door, which is kind of cool. Lock the door. Okay, I think we're good here. So we'll pull those water rudders up. And we'll go for takeoff. One notch of flaps. We'll accelerate away. Hold the nose slightly. Oh, and she just jumps in the air a bit. Float plane physics in this sim are still very much a nuanced beast. It's hard to get them right full stop. There are some aircraft that do. Not many, though. Flaps are up. Nose drops away. Set our trim here. Now, the float version still feels a little pitch sensitive compared to the wheeled version. But not terribly. It's definitely stiffer. And roll feels, as I turn my head back on, roll still feels a lot stiffer here as well. But it definitely, look at this, it's a lot bobbier on the nose, which is the thing that doesn't feel realistic. An aircraft shouldn't be that sensitive. I'm using the Honeycomb Alpha yoke, by the way, which has got a very stiff pitch axis, which makes you just need about pressure, really, to change your pitch. It feels quite similar to a real one. Not quite. But while the roll feels good, the pitch still feels like I'm just putting pressure, I'm not really moving it. I'm still getting a lot of change. There we go. Now, gear is confirmed up. That's a good start. Water rudders up as well. We'll bring it around here, we'll bring it for a landing just to check it out. So do I think it's worth buying now? Yes, it's considerably better. They made a lot of changes and I'm really happy with them actually going, okay, this wasn't right, we'll make some changes. So I think, yeah, I think if you're interested in a Maule, it's definitely a much, much, much better version than we had. Kudos to them for actually doing that, and I'd raise my kind of review from a, yeah, it's the only Maule we've got, to, well, it's not, it's a freeway one, but it's a worthy purchase as a bush plane now. I'd say it can land a lot shorter. You'll feel much more comfortable at lower airspeeds. The pitch sensitivity of the wheeled variant is a lot better. Now, the float one still feels incredibly pitchy. Maybe that's me, but it does feel quite pitchy. Let's go for a full flap approach here and go real slow for a water touchdown. I'm going to need to put some power on here, or those will sink way too fast. But we should be okay if we keep some power in it, just to balance out our descent rate. Yeah, even now, look at this, it's quite sensitive. It should feel really heavy right now with power on and full flaps out. We'll see how she goes. And we'll test actually maneuvering into the dock with the paddle to an extent. Okay, bringing it down here. Nice and gentle. It does feel better still. It might not be how I'd perfectly prefer the pitch, but it is a lot better on the float version. But I think I have other float planes I'd rather fly, like the Beaver and the Wilga, than this. Okay, let's arrest that rate. Nose slightly up. Little bit bumpy there. Still has that skipping tendency you get with a lot of flight sim float planes. I'm hoping 2024 has a big redesign of water, because we've seen whitecaps in there and waves. It could mean they've done a lot more water simulation, which could be fantastic for us float plane people. But it's not as bad as it was. Obviously now you've got the transfer pumps here because you have aux tanks. The Maule feeds from its main tanks, so you've only got left and right to feed from, or both. But obviously you could transfer that fuel, so you would obviously, you could check the actual levels in the aux tanks and you could transfer to the main tanks with those. So you'd fill from the aux tanks and feed the mains. Right. Okay, that is set correctly. Water rudders are down, so we'll pick some power up. We'll hold the nose up here. Can't really step taxi in this sim. It gets very upset. Well, not step taxi, plow taxi even. You can do it, but it's kind of start to get skippy quite quickly. Keep it under 30 knots because we're not. Would really want to head up on the step at this point. any faster. Bring her into where the dock is. We'll try and do it manually, then we'll add a little combination of the oar. I was looking for the right word there. I kept wanting to say anchor, but the anchor's the other thing we throw out, not the oar. You don't want to drop the oar. That's always bad. There's the dock, okay? We'll get our tablet out just ready. So we've got it here. You don't need to faff around. Let's drop the power out here. I think we've got enough to get a roll in. And we should be okay. Turn away a little bit so we can maneuver it around. Water handling's pretty decent. It feels slipperier on the water. I'm not sure what they did to it, but it does feel a little slipperier. There we go. That's actually a lot better. And we'd obviously hop out and grab a line there, and we can anchor, which is actually pretty decent. I'll give it that. I like it. It's definitely a lot better. Overall, I think it's now in the worth getting category if you're into bush planes. It was a little disappointing at first, but the big 1.1 update, I think, has made a huge change. I think it's a valuable option. Is it perfect? Far from. I think there's still plenty of things they could do to it. Notably, the pitch sensitivity still feels kind of off. It's one thing that more pilots have said is it still feels a bit weird. I noticed the floater definitely does it more. The wheeled version feels a lot better. The float version still feels very pitchy. I'm told it shouldn't be, but I'm not an expert, so I can't tell you. I like it. It's good. Buy aeroplane. Fly aeroplane. Go bush. Why am I talking like this? Who knows? Goodbye.